These are more dangerous times than ever before. Deception never comes and announces it's here. It always comes dressed as an angel of light. He invited her into a portal. There's the Luciferians who are pulling the strings at the highest levels. It's easier to fool people than to convince them they've been fooled. Novus Ordo Seclorum, New World Order. This technology is available to a lot of powerful people.
Dr. Hixson, when I've looked at your books and listened to your research, this is the comment I told my son yesterday morning. I said, he finds the lies that are hidden in plain sight. Now, I have already looked through your book, but then yesterday I also looked at the back cover and then it said those same words and I'm like, oh my goodness. I told my son, it actually says that. And that's what you find. You find the lies that are hidden in plain sight. And so many people are blind these days, Christians and non-Christians. And you're going to be uncovering some of those lies that I have to say are extremely alarming. Now, before you do, I just want to ask, but don't answer yet. Do you think Bible prophecy has slowed down since Trump is president and Elon Musk is doing his thing and JFK Jr.? I mean, a lot of people think that, and I understand. Okay, so Trump has brought hostages home. He secured the borders, deported thousands of criminal illegal aliens. He brought over $5 million in investments to America. DEI is over in the military. Protecting women's sports. Elon, people were praising him for free speech. Finding millions of dollars that are wasted. Social Security that they found going to dead people. And people are even praising the Neuralink, saying it's a blessing for humanity. Just imagine a world when someone is born blind, then they can see for the first time. I mean, some people just think Bible prophecy is not even relevant now because, we're living in utopia. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't agree at all, as I'm sure you could have guessed. In fact, I think these are more dangerous times than ever before, Janie. Notwithstanding some of the good things that are happening, there are always good things happening at any given time. The fact of the matter is the Christian church today in America is absolutely asleep at the wheel. I actually addressed that in my latest book, which maybe we can, sometime in the future, we can get together and talk about that either on our show or yours, but it's called The Great Last Days Apostasy, How the American Church is Falling Away. That came out in February. But there's no question that the American church, conservative Christians, have always been good at recognizing the devil in horns and a pitchfork and a tail. But what we don't recognize is true deception. Deception never comes and announces it's here. It always comes dressed as an angel of light. And we know Satan's MO is deception, as you alluded to a moment ago from the back of the first book in this series. Satan's a liar from the beginning. Jesus said in John 8:44, he's a liar. So everything he does is a lie. And I think, unfortunately, the vast majority of people in the church today have really been blinded, and they are embracing something that actually is for our own harm. It's not helping us, it's hurting us. You mentioned Neuralink. Yeah, there's no question that medical technology and the advancement of AI is helping a number of things in the medical field and accomplishing things that we've never been able to do before. X-ray technology, for example, has benefited from it. But it doesn't change the fact that ultimately Satan is trying to replicate humanity, get inside the minds of mankind so that he can feign omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence.
Well, talking about Neuralink, I found this very alarming, and I also want to bring up, you're going to bring up something very alarming with the global financial system. But okay, back to Elon. First of all, I have people now, and they're just going, hey, do you know what GPT said? Or I'm probably saying it wrong. What Grok said? I can find out all my information, and it will tell me the truth. Well, this I found very alarming, and this was on Elon Musk's X. I always want to say Twitter, and it says Grok is now being used in conjunction with Neuralink. And Neuralink patients can have Grok listen to the conversation and then generate options for them to quickly click so they can have a conversation at normal speed. And so basically, these people have Neuralink. but Grok is thinking for them. I found that extremely alarming.
Oh, of course. And we should be alarmed by that. Look, Elon Musk, I'm almost to the point where I really have no sympathy for those who continue to support him. I've spoken about him recently at a message that I did in Orlando. I've got all the documentation to back it up. I touch on it briefly in the third book in this series that we're talking about. It's called Spirit of the False Prophet, Rise of the Global Technocracy. But there's no question that he's a Satan worshiper. I mean, his mom is a witch. His sister makes movies about witches. He wears a Baphomet. He's talked about wanting to replace God, wanting to create a new God. He's a transhumanist and a leading transhumanist at that. The guy is absolutely no friend of Christians. And for Christians to just jump on board the Musk train without any discernment whatsoever is stunning to me, because it's not that hard to find this stuff out. When he was a young boy, his nanny has come out and said that he invited her into a portal. I mean, the guy is demonically influenced at worst, and possibly even at a minimum, and possibly even demonically possessed. So, yeah, I get that he's cutting waste. Whoop-de-doo. We got $38 trillion in debt, and so we're going to cut a few, pennies here or there. That's not going to amount to much in the long run at all. So Christians, I think, need to really be careful about lining up behind Elon Musk or Peter Thiel or Sam Altman or Curtis Yarvin or Larry Ellison, any of these other technocrats that guys like Patrick Wood have been warning about for a long time.
Well, explain now that you're naming those other people, what some of the things that they've done that have been alarming, and then since President Trump has become president, some of the stuff that they've said.
Yeah, well, the very first day after his inauguration, Larry Ellison stood in the Oval Office and announced, along with Trump and along with Sam Altman, Stargate, which is a massive AI project to provide the power necessary, the energy necessary to run all of these massive server farms. The problem with AI isn't the technology. We've crossed that Rubicon. They know what they're doing. They've kind of let the cat out of the bag on the capabilities of AI, and they are horrific in the long run. But the problem is energy hasn't kept up with it. So they need more energy. In places like DFW, for example, Dallas Fort Worth, I think it was something like 1/3 of the water consumption in the whole Metroplex area was used for AI factories, because they have to try to keep these machines cool. So it's just they've opened these massive plants. The one they announced in January with Larry Ellison and Donald Trump and Sam Altman and the other guy, Masayoshi, I think is his name, from Japan, the four of them in a press conference in the Oval Office. It was opened in Abilene, Texas. They plan to open many, many more. The U.S. Is claiming that we've got to lead the world in AI, otherwise China will. Well, look, there's no China versus US versus Russia. There's the Luciferians who are pulling the strings at the highest levels to try to usher in a one world political, economic, and religious system. That's what the Bible teaches. So we cannot allow ourselves to fall into this trap of an us versus them at the lower level, and act like, oh, it's okay for us to fund and roll out all of this AI stuff, which is exactly what the Antichrist is going to use to oversee the beast system.
Okay, well, speaking of needing, I didn't know that about what you were saying with the water and to cool it, the system. Do you think? Okay, here. Do you think Trump threatening Greenland, that because I've heard people speculating that they want Greenland because they can put a lot of that technology there, and it can cool it. I mean, is that true? And can you explain this whole thing? I mean, Trump threatening Greenland with military takeover. What is all of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really bizarre. And honestly, you know, Trump is almost beside the point these days. I mean, obviously, most people that follow our ministry, they know my views on Trump. I've never been a Trump fan going back to 2015. I've never have been. I understand he's not, Kamala Harris, and he's not Joe Biden, and he's not Obama. I get that, but let's look at who he really is. But at this point, the technocrats that have flooded into the Washington, D.C. Beltway almost make Trump irrelevant. I don't know if he's, the cart or the horse, or he's just along for the ride. I don't really know. I could speculate, but that would just make people mad. So let's assume the best. Let's assume that he's not in on it. He just wants what's best for America. He's trying to do some good. It doesn't matter, Janie, because what's happening right under his nose is, and very, very rapidly, by the way, is setting the stage for the beast system.
Okay, so you also talk about, and I didn't really know much about her, the CDC director. Can you explain who she really is and why this is alarming?
Oh yeah, so she's a longtime big pharma person. I don't remember the exact details because I don't have them in front of me, but she was at the very least involved with funding and political action committees, but in deep with big pharma. As someone told me recently, people go to DC poor and they come away rich. That's the whole point of going there. They go there, they get connected with their Rolodex, they start connecting with all of these big, bureaucrats and companies, and all the things that surround the government buildings. And next thing you know, they're in positions of huge power. So she has shown no signs whatsoever of wanting to expose big pharma the way I did in chapter 9 of Spirit of the Antichrist, volume 1. She's not a friend of independence and freedom. But so are many of his appointments. I mean, let's face it. He, he's not either. He's very easily swayed and not discerning, or perhaps he's intentionally bringing all of these people from the swamp right into his cabinet. But these are people that are very questionable in my mind. Maybe not all of them. I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's some good, God fearing believers, brothers and sisters in Christ, who are patriotic and truly want to do what's best for the American Republic. But by and large, the people that are still running things in DC are not a part of the good guys.
Right, because things are still moving along. AI is still speeding along, and that's all definitely part of Bible prophecy. So nothing is really slowed down. And back to her, I heard you also say on one of your podcasts that she's involved in many transhumanist groups.
Oh, no
And
doubt. Yeah, just like Musk. I mean, Musk's grandfather from Canada was the leading one, was in the beginning of the technocratic movement, and was part. And by the way, technocrats and transhumanists are twins, as Patrick Wood has talked about. So the twin evils of technocracy and transhumanism. But Musk's grandfather goes way back to the 20s and 30s, and the genesis of the technocratic movement. If you trace these folks' background, such as the CDC director, that's what you'll find. We mentioned Larry Ellison a second ago, who was on day one of Trump's administration, was standing behind the presidential podium in the Oval Office. This is the same guy who last September said, quote, "Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that is going on." Larry Ellison, as you may know, is the founder of or CEO of Oracle, leader of Oracle, big technocrat, big tech. And that's what these guys want. And so I don't understand why Trump is allowing the technocracy to be rolled out right before our very eyes. But I can promise you, if President Harris had announced on day one of her administration that we're going to go full speed ahead rolling out AI technology, conservative Bible prophecy Christians would have gone berserk. But instead, they're all just sort of cheer. If they're not overtly cheering, they're just sort of fading into the background. And well, it's not Harris. It's not Harris. It's not Harris. Yeah, it's not Harris. It's kind of like, strychnine versus arsenic. I'm not sure there's much difference at the end of the day.
yeah, now I know that people will still argue that things are not as bad as they could have been under Harris, but anyway, the thing is with AI, I think this is the thing that people would say. Well, he has to because, or else China's going to beat him, and
Yeah.
and you were talking about that. Now, I want to go to something else that I've heard you say, and I had no idea about this. With and this goes along with the beast system, the end times, and a global financial system but connected to Elon Musk? Explain that.
Yeah. So again, that Satan ultimately wants full control. Now, Psalm 2 makes it clear that his earthly co-conspirators are trying to break off the cords and bindings of God's control. Right now, God is sovereign. He has absolute control. They want it. Satan wanted it in heaven. He didn't. His coup attempt failed, so he set his sights on earth. His earthly accomplices, his co-conspirators on earth, the rulers, the kings, the leaders, the globalists, they want control. The only way they're going to be able to do that is through technology. So they're not going to ever have the mind of God. They want to create the mind of God, but of course, there's only one God. He is the Almighty God, all powerful God. So Satan is using technology to kind of usher in that type of thing. That's what, I mean, think about all the things Musk is involved in. Neuralink, Starlink. It's all about linking the world together. We live in Colorado where people love to go hiking, and you can get up to a certain elevation in a remote part of the Rocky Mountains, and you don't have a cell signal. Well, with what Elon Musk is creating, you're going to have a cell signal. Now, Starlink is hardwired into all of the Apple and Android phones. Wherever you are in the most remote part of the earth, you can use your cell phone because it's connected to the satellite. Now, is that a good thing? I mean, maybe if you fall and break your leg and you need to call for a rescue team, but could it also be play right into the hands of the beast and false prophet when they want to watch and hack and track us? I think it can.
Now, can you explain more about the, X control of the global financial system, that he wants to use X to do that?
Yeah, so I think from the beginning, all social media was a ploy to just get data. And now that it's become second nature to everyone, it's a natural next step to plug in, the payment systems. And there are many, by the way. I was just talking to someone the other day about Paze, Paze, and of course you've got, Peter Thiel with PayPal and the PayPal mafia. You've got all these other systems, but what X is trying to do is just kind of centralize that all together. I don't know if X is going to ultimately be the final landing spot for the CBDC, the digital ID and digital currency. Maybe. The way I've described it is it's almost like putting up Christmas lights, around your house and around your yard. And, they're all kind of on separate strings and so forth. But at some point, you connect them all to one central power strip, and you turn that power strip on, and they all connect and work together. I think that's where we're headed with this digital currency. I'm not ready to say X is the ultimate version of that, but Musk is the wealthiest man in the world, and he's got access to the smartest people in the world in terms of their technological ability. The Bible talks about intelligence and wisdom being something totally different than the world, which is why the technocracy is burgeoning right now, because most people go, oh, well, Bill Gates and Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and Sam Altman, these guys are so much smarter than me, so I'll just trust them, to do what's right. Well, there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom, and these guys have a lot of knowledge, and they have a lot more knowledge than you or I do when it comes to technology, but they are by no means reflecting the fear of God and a biblical wisdom. So, yeah, who knows? But I think Musk is definitely kind of center stage in all of this burgeoning global financial system.
Well, I'm going to read something that you had read, from an article, and it just said Elon Musk says he wants to use X to control the global financial system, a payment processing mechanism. I'm reading this because even though you explained it, I want you to be on the lookout. I want people to be on the lookout for this processing mechanism to enable people to get rid of their banking accounts and use X. No more switching apps or banks, just X. Money database with real-time data processing become half the global financial system. Now, you also mentioned this. I didn't know about this. My son did. You mentioned how he is trying to beat WeChat, a Chinese app. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the narrative. I'm not sure that's really his motive, but yeah, he views they're creating an enemy. It's the classic Hegelian dialectic. We've got to create a problem so that they can bring us the solution. When the solution is rolled out, it's really what they wanted all along. It's not about protecting us from China. But yeah, the narrative is that he's trying to beat China's version of X, WeChat, to the finish line and make it more all inclusive and all encompassing part of our lives. Um, to me, his motive is really beside the point. We know that the technology exists for a full spectrum planetary control grid, and we know that Musk and the other technocrats are working on it and have the power to do it. That's about all I can say on that. I mean, he on some level, probably the financial level and the competition level, he probably does want to kind of beat China to the finish line. But, again, to me, that's a big head fake. It's not about China versus the U.S., it's about the Luciferians versus the rest of the world.
Yeah, well, I was shocked because I didn't realize that they actually that okay, this Chinese app WeChat, I didn't know about it. Maybe a lot of people do, but that it wasn't just for payment tool by over a billion people monthly, but that it's also texting and shopping, paying bills. It's like doing
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, it's integrated. You've probably heard me say before, and others have pointed this out too. But China, of course, is further along in terms of how the public has embraced it because they're not a democratic republic. So, we have too many Bible believing, gun toting, patriotic Americans that are still a little resistant to this full spectrum takeover. But in China, if you're caught jaywalking before you get to the other side of the street, they've already debited your bank account the fine. That's how much surveillance and control they have. So we're getting there here. I was just thinking last night, I was out with Wendy, and I don't know what made me think about it, but I was sitting at a stoplight and I just looked up and it's just surrounded by cameras in a downtown or in the metropolitan area of Colorado Springs. So, yeah, it's and this sounds kind of cynical and negative. I don't mean to be so negative because clearly we know who wins in the end. It's exciting to see this happening. I don't get scared about Elon Musk and all these other technocrats coming in. To me, it just says, man, we're knocking on the door of the rapture. But going back to something we talked about a moment ago, if I may, you're right. Most people still are kind of trapped in this contrived right left paradigm where they go, well, at least he's not as bad as Kamala. I'm not ready to concede that point because, to use an analogy, if I'm sitting here at my home and we live, fairly remotely, and I see an obvious evil intruder with a ski mask and a gun, and he's walking across our property, headed towards our house, and he starts banging on the door. Man, he's gonna regret that. Let's just say that. Me and 357 of my friends are going to greet him at the door. But what is more scary to me is not that, because I can see that and I'm prepared for it, and I'm not worried about that kind of evil. What scares me more is the secret sort of ninja that sneaks in while my family and I are asleep in the middle of the night, bypasses our cameras. They're able to kind of come in and poison the air or poison our water or do some kind of damage, and I don't even know they're there. That's the difference. So yeah, I get it. I believe me, Kamala is evil, evil to the core, but we know that. I think Christians haven't begun to realize yet just how evil the fake right side of the paradigm is, and so therefore they're sound asleep while these less obvious evils are creeping in all around us.
Yeah, I think what's very, very confusing, Dr. Hixson, is that I know some really amazing Christians that actually know Trump and his team. And it's just like, but I have to keep on looking at, but where are we still headed? So let's say he doesn't know. Just let's say, like you said, let's say he doesn't know all this. You know, the thing is, nothing has stopped. Bible prophecy is speeding along. And that's the thing, whether, because we could argue, like, I know people probably have argued with you. And I know in my comments, people go, oh, no, he's great. No, he's not. How come think he's, I mean, I get this all the time.
Oh,
How come
yeah.
you think he's good? How come you think he's bad? I mean, it's like, it doesn't really, but my issue is not that. It's the issue is like what you said is, things are still happening and they're going very fast and the elites are not stopping. And I heard you say that they would never say, oh, 4 years, oh my goodness, okay, we're gonna have to slow down. I was
Yeah,
like,
no doubt. Yeah, it's. I think that's right. And let me just address the tension and the concern here. First of all, I want to be very clear. I completely respect and have many friends and colleagues and family members who are all in with Trump. I respect that. I get it. I understand it. We have been conditioned over many, many decades, going back to the 40s, going back to World War II, to accept this right-left paradigm. And even though the Overton window has moved further and further and further evil, we still are locked in to this concept of, well, at least it's not a Democrat, right? I get it. I used to be there. I respect it. I'm not expecting everybody to agree with me. I don't even care if people agree with me. I'm just prone to speak my heart. But I do want to be gracious and recognize that, you people that say, well, I know Trump, or I know people that know Trump. Well, so do I. I've talked to people who have him literally in their cell phone and could pick him up and call him. I've interviewed people who've known him for decades, going back to the 70s. It's easier to fool people than to convince them they've been fooled. And once you've bought into, the nice Trump, then understandably, it's going to be hard to accept, especially from someone, as conspiracy minded as me, that, hey, he might not be that. But I promise you, I'm not just blowing smoke. I do my research. I'm confident that this is the case. But that said, I totally respect it if people aren't there yet. The fact of the matter is, even if Trump means well and he's not a controlled asset, as I believe him to be, even if that's true, for those who believe the best about Trump, and I want to as well, I want to assume that maybe he's not in on it, right? Let's play devil's. I can assume he's not in on it. He means well. Well, that you still can't deny that he has made horrific decisions and judgments, such as Operation Warp Speed, and we all know how that ended up. And there was a Netherlands study that showed the devastation of that. So, you can't have it both ways. If he's truly fighting for the good guys, why doesn't he come out and acknowledge the devastation that what caused back 5 years ago? I mean, he has an easy scapegoat, right? He could blame it on Fauci or Bix or Birx or whatever. He's got plenty of people that he could say, but he doesn't do that. And it's time for Christians to wake up and recognize either he's just got poor judgment, or there's something more nefarious at play.
I want to go back to something with Elon that I didn't know that I heard you also talk about, and his jacket. About what it said on the jacket, and that he tweeted that phrase after President Trump's election.
Oh yeah, Musk you're talking about?
Yep.
Yep, Novus Ordo Seclorum, New World Order. He's mentioned it many times. He tweeted it right after the election. I think it was the next day he was with Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and he tweeted it out. Now those who are not willing to see the obvious thing about Musk, which is his history, his satanic history and heritage, and the fact that he wears Baphomets and things like that, they'll say, "Oh, he just meant that in a generic sense that we have a new president and it's going to be a new world." Well, that's not what that means. I mean, that is a very powerful term that goes way, way back to the Illuminati and the Freemasons before them, and just the whole, Luciferian elite. It's what they are trying to accomplish globally is a new world order that will be headed up by the fake Trinity, Satan, the Antichrist, and the false prophet, and so. It doesn't surprise me a bit that then a couple months later, after the inauguration, we see this massive influx of New World Order types coming into DC and completely dismantling everything. Now, most Christians are going, yeah, we need to cut waste and we need to fix this and we need to fix that. And yay, it's about time. it's never about what it's about, Janie. It's never about what it's about. That's not what this is about. And I think if the rapture doesn't happen soon, and we're in God's sovereignty allowed to live through part of this dismantling of our country, which could very well happen long before the Antichrist takes the helm. We're not promised to be out of here before things get bad. We're just promised to be out of here before the 70th week of Daniel. And if we get to see some of that, I think there's going to be a massive awakening, but I just hope it's not too late.
Yeah, and I also heard you talking about, like the Doge, like the cuts, that it's really about eliminating humans from jobs.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I think that's right. I think it's multifaceted, like most things. It's never about just one thing. They love to kill multiple birds with one stone. We know everybody's talking about it. Conservatives and liberals alike, the dangers of AI and how that's going to decimate the employment industry. This is just a fast track to do that in certain ways. It's like a foreshadowing of what's to come in a massive scale. So yeah, I think there's a lot going on there. Does that mean that I am displeased with the fact that so many ridiculous departments and government employees are getting axed? No, I think that's good. I'm not going to allow myself to get drawn into this golden age, which is another whole discussion, by the way, the whole seven mountain mandate, the golden age, Curtis Yarvin wanting to dismantle the Constitution and install a monarchy. That's a whole separate discussion. But I'm not going to get drawn into this enticement that, because Elon Musk carries a chainsaw, and that somehow our country's going to be better. That's just not the way it's going to work.
well, when I, heard you saying that one of the things with the Doge cuts would be like, a lot of humans being not having a job. This really struck me. I was looking at Elon Musk's X, and he was showing Optimus bots performing surgery, and it said no humans in sight by 2035. I'm like, you just revealed yourself there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, let's remember the goal of the Luciferians is to reduce the world's population to 500 million. So I did a presentation a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years now, in Orlando on the Luciferian depopulation agenda, and I documented this in a number of different ways. We have a chapter on it in volume 2 of the 3-volume set. I think it's chapter 13. But yeah, they definitely want to get rid of human beings. They want just enough left behind to serve them their coffee, clean their floors, and climb atop the satanic altars to be sacrificed. But they do not need 8 billion people. They don't want 8 billion people. They want this planet to themselves. And so they're definitely doing all they can to eliminate humanity. That's on record. I mean, think about the Georgia Guidestones. Think about, the Club of Rome and its depopulation agenda, those kinds of things.
Well, speaking of that, so what do you think of the UK and dimming the sun?
Yeah, well, we were way out front talking about geoengineering and all of those things way back.
Right, it's in your books. Yep.
Yep, and it's in volume 1. But even way before that, in my first attempt to expose some of this was in 2012 in my book, The Great Last Days Deception. Yeah, it's there's no question that this is a global phenomena. They call it stratospheric aerosol injection or chemical ice nucleation or solar radiation management. That's what they're doing in Europe. So it's everywhere. It's not about saving us from climate change. That's the reason they claim they're doing it, is that we've got, because of anthropogenic climate change, we've got this existential threat. Same argument they used, by the way, with the pandemic. There's an existential threat. We're going to come together and rescue the world from it. Well, that's what they're doing with climate change. But as I've said already several times on the program, it's never about what it's about. So, yeah, they're not just dimming the sun. I think there's something far worse going on.
Yeah, well, they always create a boogeyman that we have to fight. But there was something I just found, Dr. Hixson, and you may know about this, but and again, in your books, you talk about the geoengineering. But a lot of people have been showing pictures on X of what the, I mean, our skies look pretty, you know, dim. And and here, in fact, you know, a new neighbor. I met this new neighbor and they said, oh, the reason why I moved down south is because up north in Connecticut, we never have blue skies. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it's that bad there. But then the pictures that they're showing in the UK, now that they're admitting that they're doing these experiments, I mean, it's so very thick. And I'll show some pictures. But this I found interesting. I didn't know this. They said this technology, it was found in the 1920s. In the 1920s, tests were done by U.S. Navy and Air Force. So can you imagine? This is like 100 years old that they knew how to do this with airplanes putting out smoke from titanium dioxide, which causes cancer, respiratory problems, DNA damage, and aerosol hydrochloride acid, which causes cardiovascular symptoms, and they were using it against their enemies. So here they knew they had this technology 100 years ago.
Oh yeah, no question. It goes way, way back. We talk about that in the chapter on geoengineering, Spirit of the Antichrist, Volume One. I forget the chapter number, but it's titled Geoengineering. Yeah, it goes back to Operation Popeye, weather modification, all kinds of historical examples of now unveiled military and government operations to tinker with the heavenlies, the atmosphere right above us, the first heaven. And yeah, it's for multiple reasons. I mean, China has a weather modification office. And during the Olympics, when they hosted the Olympics, they were out front talking about, yeah, we don't have to worry about it. Will there be enough snow? We're gonna make it snow, no problem. And and they still use it. So all of these fires and droughts and floods, all of that is engineered. It's called geoengineering. And what's really sad is it's not like it's all sort of monolithic where certain satanic bad guys are trying to destroy the earth. I mean, there's some of that going on, but a lot of it is this technology is available to a lot of powerful people. And so, I mean, we saw this in Canada a few years ago when when the prime minister gets mad at one region of Canada because the leader there didn't fall in line over some of the dictates that he was issuing. He just used geoengineering to devastate the area with the fires. They'll start fires, they'll start droughts. That's why we've had so many, unprecedented things happen.
Well, now I also have heard you talking about just other signs that of Jesus coming back soon, and one is the upsurge of the paranormal. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so that's volume two of the three-volume set where we talk about the phenomenalistic stuff. But yeah, remember, ultimately, it's a cosmic battle. So when things are heating up on Earth, it just means they're heating up in the heavenlies. So it started in the heavenlies when Satan orchestrated a coup that was rebuffed, and it's now spilling over into here. So ever since World War II, when Israel became a nation again, Satan has been on high alert, recognizing that his time is short. He knows that according to God's plans, Israel plays a key role in the end times. It's from Israel that Christ is going to rule and reign with a rod of iron. So, absolutely, when he heard talk of Israel being reconstituted as a nation again, he shifted it into high gear. He's not omnipresent, so he needs his demons to go throughout the earth and run reconnaissance missions. That's what a lot of this UFO, UAP activity is, as I describe in the book. The dawn of the modern UFO era started in 1947, again, in the context of Israel becoming a nation again, with the Mount Rainier and the one in Roswell incident in New Mexico. So, and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And then in 2017, during the first Trump administration, we saw them finally just come right out and say, yeah, we've been tracking this stuff since 1947. We've got buildings full of data and documentation. We are gravely concerned about what's happening in the skies. We can't explain it. We don't understand it. It's not of this world. So we're going to create the Space Force to help combat it. And I talked to someone at the Space Force, a decorated officer who was, when they were first forming it, he moved there. And he said, yeah, they're telling you it's simply another branch of the military to provide ground support for our troops in this technological age. But he said, no, that may be part of it, but it's because we are very concerned about what's out there and we can't explain it. So we believe from a biblical worldview that it's not little green men from Mars. It's dimensional. It's demonic. But yeah, it's becoming. I mean, we're seeing more and more signs of this type of stuff every day.
Now, can you explain how close do you think we are to World War III as far as like the tensions? Like, do you think we're getting it very close?
I mean, that's a tough one. I could see several scenarios playing out. It's just total speculation. Um, but if we look at the biblical teaching on the end times, we know there are several end times wars, most notably the Ezekiel 38 war, 38 and 39, Gog, Magog. Um, you know, we know that from the Luciferians' plan, they have to destroy to build back, right? Order out of chaos. Again, going back to that Friedrich Hegel and the whole concept of the Hegelian dialectic. So order out of chaos. They've got to destroy so they can build it back. We know that the United States does not play a role in the big picture of Satan's regime during the tribulation period. So therefore, we've got to be somehow neutralized. I don't believe they're going to, destroy the infrastructure of this country because America has too much power and too many resources that could aid the beast system. But I do think they're going to bring us to our knees somehow and force America to give up its national sovereignty and join in with a global system. If you believe the Bible, you know we're headed towards a one world system. It will ultimately be led by Jesus Christ, God's Son and our Savior, who died and rose again for our sins. I mean, if you don't know the Lord, please, we implore you, today's the day of salvation. Place your faith in Christ. He's the only one that can save you from your sin. But we're headed towards a one world system, one way or the other, no question about it. The first part of that's going to be led by Satan. And so I do think there's a scenario according to which a war breaks out, whether that's centered around Iran and Israel, or North Korea or South Korea, or Russia, Ukraine. Somehow I could envision the United States being brought in through NATO or just on their own to this global conflagration that quickly gets out of hand. And then we're sort of brought to our knees. I have no confidence in our leadership. With all due respect, I don't think a Fox News host is the best guy to be running the United States military, especially since he likes to, disperse our war plans on social media. But I'd have no confidence in the leaders that are kind of running things. I think we will bungle something. And the first thing you know, America will have no choice but to sign on to the one world system. The only thing that remains to be seen is, will that happen before the rapture or after the rapture?
Well, thank you so much for all your information. Now, how can people find you? And people need to keep on watching your podcasts and follow your ministry, because you're always revealing things that are happening behind the scenes and things that are hidden in plain sight, the lies that are hidden in plain sight. Your information is amazing. So how can people find you? And
Yeah, thank you, Janie.
also,
And yeah, I'm so grateful for the opportunity just to share some of this. And again, I want to encourage people, uh, don't stop searching. Don't just take my word for this stuff. I don't mean to offend. I want you to continue to study the word first and foremost, and then look at everything that's happening through the lens of Scripture. Don't just assume it's true because some Republican said it's true. The best way to get the books is just to go to spiritoftheantichrist.org, spiritoftheantichrist.org. They're available in print, in Kindle. We also sell them in PDF format. You can get them in audiobooks through Audible, or we sell the MP3s as well. Our main website is notbyworks.org. We also have a fantastic free app. If you search the App Store or Google Play Store for NBW Ministries, NBW stands for Not By Works, but just search NBW Ministries. You can stay in touch with us there. And yeah, we're so blessed. Every day we do a different interview with some really great Bible teachers and Bible prophecy experts. My son Morgan came to work for us a couple of months ago, and he now is co-hosting the show with me a couple of days a week. That's always fun. But I'm like you talk about the information we're getting out there. I feel like a kid in a candy shop. Every day I get to sit and listen to these people like Patrick Wood and Tom Hughes and whoever, and just learn and get information and grow. So yeah, notbyworks.org.
Okay, sounds great, and it really is great. Okay, thank you so much for being on the program.
My pleasure.
Ready to go deeper down the end time rabbit hole? Patrick Wood reveals the shocking truth about the beast system and who the major players are. Click the video to watch now.